Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Veronica Conway, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. This is a conversation. It's really going to be a conversation about what it means to go from Wannapreneur to entrepreneur, what the mindset is, how you have to think about the money, how you have to think about momentum or action, and also how you have to think about metrics. And those are really the four elements, and we're going to climb into those a little bit later. So for those of you that I want to really welcome you to be here. We decided to have this call really by popular demand. It was requested because a lot of people listened to the replay of last week's call and wanted to get more information, wanted to maybe get some live coaching. And so we decided to go ahead and offer this as a way of connecting, as a way of having you experience one another in community, but also to get your most prime questions answered. My partner in crime, Zoe Williams, is on his way back to the studio. I think he got caught in a bit of traffic. So he should be joining us in a little while. But I want to just kind of kick it off, and then I want to set the frame for what this conversation is about in terms of wannapreneurship versus entrepreneurship. Hold on one second. I'm just connecting with Zoe. So I want to kick it off by really getting clarity about how this came to be and how we came to even think about this for Zoe's audience, for Zoe's listeners. If you are a fan of the Zoe What Show, which I presume that you are, you wouldn't necessarily be here on this call, then one of the things that you have been exposed to is the Black Mastery Program. My name is Veronica Conway, and I'm a life and business coach. I've been a life and business coach for 15 years. And I founded one of the world's first African-American coaching associations because I really wanted to see Black folk get our heads reprogrammed. We've really been at the effect of 400 years of negative conditioning and cultural reprogramming, and we've been trained as the owned and not as the owner. We've been trained as consumers and not as creators. And I have a very firm and powerful belief that we are creators. We are creator gods and goddesses walking around the planet, and but we have to restore ourselves to that. And so mindset is sort of the first piece of that. But then once you begin to get the mindset stuff happening, which is why I developed the Black Mastery Program, and Zoe has advocated a lot for that on the show. But once you begin to get the mindset stuff happening, then we begin to want to exercise the possibilities, right? And entrepreneurship can be, not always, but can be, I think, one of the most potent, radical ways to create value, to create wealth, to create freedom, to create sovereignty and autonomy that I've ever been exposed to. So that is why we decided. So after talking to a lot of folks that got the Black Mastery Program, one of the things that I discovered in talking to folks is that many people really have this hunger to move into entrepreneurship, that many folks that were listening to the show were employees or are employees and hate their job and deeply and desperately want to move to something that will not only be more fulfilling for them and more purpose-driven for them, but will also be more financially gratifying. And I heard that over and over again as I talked to those people. So this whole concept of Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur boot camp really was born out of a conversation that I had with you, that people wanted to move into entrepreneurship, but had no idea how to, and had a lot of fears, doubts, back of mind considerations, places where they had failure to launch. There's just all of these stories and reasons that they had for not moving into entrepreneurship, and that was stopping a lot of people. And the other thing that I also heard in talking to you is that several of you, many of you have small businesses, but they're not profitable, and they show no sign of becoming profitable. And I think that if you are in that state in a business, then you are putting your child's life and livelihood at risk. You're putting your family's future at risk. And there has to be a way for people that are in small businesses to find the strategies, to find the models that will actually make them profitable. So that is why this came to be. And, one of the things I've coached entrepreneurs, off and on for well over a decade. I've done financial coaching. I've coached executives in the Fortune 100. I've coached startup businesses, people that were coming out of employment that needed to have a clear path, a clear revenue path to being able to make the transition into full-time business. And one of the things that I see, there's a few things that I see happening that cause people to either launch and fail or cause people to never launch at all. And so that first piece is really related to the mindset. So mindset is, I think in this day and age, since the era of The Secret, people often talk about mindset and they have no idea what it actually means. They have no idea how to get in touch with it. They have no idea how to take control of their mindset. They just think that it means trying to think good thoughts and think positive thoughts and think happy thoughts. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because one thing to understand about mindset is that most of what we are dealing with in terms of our own behaviors, in terms of our own decisions, in terms of our own actions, most of that is built in at the subconscious level. So there's very little that we're actually processing consciously, and there's a whole bunch that we're processing subconsciously. So, for example, if you grew up in a household where the common story was, we live paycheck to paycheck, then that got conditioned into you subconsciously. You just grew up with that assumption that that's how life was. That's how people are. That's how money is. And so if people grow up with that assumption, then they tend to, conditioning is a really deep piece, and there's a whole cycle to conditioning. So what you believe ends up leading to your attitudes, which is what your self-talk leads to, your language, which is the language that comes out of your mouth, which leads to action, which gets a result, which then gets reviewed and reinforced. And then that leads back to the original belief. So what we believe, how we get results in any way, shape, or form is based primarily on what we believe. And what we believe is primarily formulated in our subconscious mind, meaning that between the ages of 0 and 7 is the time when we form all of our beliefs. And unless we have either an intervention or an experience that radically shifts that belief, then we will continue to run around getting the same results over and over and over again because we've never gone in and fundamentally changed our beliefs. So if we don't do that, then we can't possibly expect to get different results just with willpower alone. We absolutely cannot expect that. So the first thing that you have to begin to think about when you're thinking about moving from wannapreneurship to entrepreneurship is you have to begin to understand how addicted you are currently to being a wannapreneur and how afraid you might be to really becoming a successful and profitable entrepreneur. And there's a lot of stories in back of, like, if I take people back into their, so when I say that people don't understand mindset, it's because so often people haven't been trained to deeply understand the blocks that we experience that get in the way of us being able to realize certain things. So one of the reasons that I became a hypnotist, one of the reasons that I became a neuro-linguistic programming specialist, one of the reasons that I began to look at that in the context of black people, in the context of slavery and Jim Crow, in the context of the psychological warfare that we've been under, is because I understood that, I wanted to have the most powerful set of resources and tools that would go in and annihilate and eradicate the conditioning that had been done to us. But I also wanted to make it black-focused because I understood that we uniquely on the planet have suffered from that, and that for us to uniquely climb out of our condition, that we would have to have some medicine that was stronger medicine than 10 years on the therapy couch or listening to Oprah or whatever it is that we do that placates us, that keeps us in a mindset, as I said earlier, that is of the owned and not of the owner. Fear of selling. I don't know if that relates back to us being sold, but I know that if I look out across most cultures, that selling as sort of an industry is sort of the thing that we shy away from the most, because nothing happens, brothers and sisters, in entrepreneurship until something gets sold. And so people come to me and they say, why aren't I getting paid what I'm worth? And I say, in a certain way you are, because if you knew your worth, if you knew your value, if you knew and could quantify that and articulate that and make the case for that, you would be getting paid more, whether it's on a job or it's in business. You'd be getting paid more, because if you congruently believe that you're worth more, you will charge more, you will have more. And I think that because we've been conditioned out of knowing our worth and knowing our value, and it's such a deep hypnotic programming, we very often don't have a clue about how to understand our own value. So mindset is huge in this space. Mindset is absolutely huge. And so that's the first thing that we begin to deal with. The second thing that we begin to deal with, if you talk, and I'm going to open it up for questions a little bit later. As I said earlier, Zoe is, for those of you that are joining, you guys, I see you joining and coming on. I want to welcome all of you that are choosing to join this call. I know we gave it on pretty short notice, so thank you for being here. And I also just want to acknowledge you for showing up and being an advocate inside of your own life, because I think in this day and this time at this moment, if we don't stand up and advocate for our futures, for our children's future, if we don't become kind of fierce and non-negotiable about what we will accept in terms of our quality of life, in terms of the quality of our money and our relationship to it, if we don't stand up and do it now when we are under such assault by the dominant culture, then I think that we're doomed. So those of us that are on the call, I appreciate you. And those that'll be listening into the recording of this call, I appreciate you and I honor you for being here, because this is simply a first step, a first moment in your stepping up. And you may step up in other ways, in other places, but this is what this is, because this is what time it is. So yeah. So I talked a little bit. Do I hear Zoe? Are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening to you ride.
Did you want to say something? We've got some people chiming in. Okay.
Hey,
so
what's happening?
Yeah.
Let's go.
What's
Let's
happening?
do it.
Let's go. So this is the time for Black people to really get clear about what is now and what is next. And if we don't get clear about that, if we wander around at the effect of someone else's vision for us, if we walk around being consumers for some industries that they've built to sell us a bunch of stuff so they can then turn around and use the police departments that they have in their pocket to kill us, if we don't get clear that this is like ride or die time, then we'll never get clear. Because it couldn't be more apparent, and it couldn't be more, and in a certain way, strangely enough, we couldn't have more power. In other words, the agenda for us couldn't be more apparent, but it's also true that we, in a certain way, we couldn't have more power with social media and the ability to connect and the ability to make money on the internet and the ability to really leverage the planet, we have more access to more connectivity than ever before. There is no reason that we have to sit around and continue to complain about the forces that are out that mean to annihilate us. There is no reason that we need to sit around and complain about it anymore. But if we're going to do something entrepreneurial that is a force of our economic empowerment, then we have to make some very kinds of different decisions. We have to make some very different decisions. We have to get very clear about the committee of voices that is running our mind that limits our money. We have to get very clear about our relationship to entrepreneurship. We have to get very clear about our relationship to risk. We have to get very clear about our relationship to uncertainty. One of the things that we talked about on last week's call is I've got the vision, I've got the idea, I've got the passion. I know I can do it. I'm sitting here at this stank job with this boss that hates me, and I know he does, and I know he's getting ready to get rid of my ass in 5 minutes. But I am paralyzed because the thought of the uncertainty of taking a risk to move into my purpose and to take the risk to put what is seemingly secure money on the line to live in my purpose, it just seems like too much to bear. So rather than do that, yes.
Veronica, can you speak more about the fear and certainty? Because a lot of times people might just feel like it's a good deal to do, a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. To a lot of people, they don't equate that move as a fear-based move. Can you speak more into that psychology?
Yeah, well, the first thing to look at is what is your current path costing you? What is your current and this is something to look at across your life. See, because so much of our actions and so much of what we do is not predicated on our conscious choice. So much of what we do day to day is a reaction to the programming that we've experienced. It's a reaction to the wounding that we've lived through. It's a reaction to the imprints that we've experienced between the ages of 0 and 7. And I say 0 and 7 intentionally because I've regressed people hypnotically into the womb where they made decisions about money and time and their own value in the womb because they were sitting there in their mother's tummy and the mother is broadcasting all of the subconscious vibration to the baby, and the baby picks up on it, even if the baby doesn't understand, doesn't have any words for it, but it lives as an imprint. So when we begin to talk about our imprints and why so much of that is hitting us subconsciously, and we don't know why we can't change. We think it's a question of will. It is usually not a question of will. It is usually a question of surrender. And so these imprints and these blockages and these things get stored in our field, and they're pretty formulated by the age of 7. They're pretty hard-coded and locked in unless we have what I call an intervention or we have such a radically life-transforming experience that something shifts. You lose a loved one and you realize what's important. A boss fires you and you realize you've been squandering your life in that job anyway. Usually it takes this outside intervention sometimes, or it takes somebody like me, right, who comes in and does the intervention on purpose so that you can shift and be free once and for all. So when we begin to talk about that resistance to that failure to launch and that bird in the hand and that comfort, right, that learned helplessness that has us stay put in jobs that are draining the life force out of us, that are draining our souls out of us. So often it's because, A, we are programmed in a certain way around fear and risk and uncertainty, but B, we don't understand the price that we're paying for staying the same. And I'll give you an example, and I think I gave this example last week. I talked to a brother, and he's going to become my client because he can't figure out how not to. And when I talked to him, he was making, six figures a year. So, he's one of those, borderline, aristocracy Negroes. He's got he's got good money happening. But he also, when we began to look at and do like an analysis of his business, what we realized is that just looking at the numbers, because I'm a real simple numbers girl. It's just like, let's just talk about the money. Let's just talk about the numbers. Like, what are you giving up? What's the price you're paying for staying at $100,000 or whatever the number was? When we looked at the business and we actually ran the numbers in a very simple way, what we realized is that he could easily be in $1 million in revenue a year this year. Easily.
What was holding him back, though?
Well, that's his fear. In other words, so this is a bit of a thematic pattern. He had investors, he had connections, he had stuff lined up. If you really began to look at it, look at how it all lined up, it lined up beautifully, and the money was there. But because he was so busy at the job, he had like a job and a half, right? He told himself that he had no time to launch the business, right? And how many of us say that, right? I just don't have the time. Actually, you have time for whatever is most important. And when you're telling me right now, yeah, go ahead.
So you're telling me right now that fear can be imprinted on your business plan.
Yeah, and it can stop you from ever having one.
Wow. This is so. Listen, treat me like a baby. Walk me away from that fear. What's the first step in turning my back on the fear that has been advising me this whole time while I was building a business plan? What's the first step?
The first step is to, first of all, in other words, we often won't change until we understand that the price that we're paying is more than the reward that we're getting, right? Because there's always a cost for behavior and there's always a payoff. So if I don't understand, I mean, when I say understand, I mean get it down in my core that my $30 an hour job, what I'm sacrificing for that $30 an hour job is really, I don't know, $200,000 a year, the freedom to live my purpose, the sovereignty over my future and my children's future, right? The freedom. I mean, listen, entrepreneurship is risky, and I'm not going to tell you anything, but it has its risks. But we take calculated risks. We mitigate risks by minimizing the downside and figuring out the ways to move into profitability quickly. So I'm not going to say that entrepreneurship doesn't have risk, but ultimately, when you are in entrepreneurship, the risk is yours. Your destiny and your fate is not in the hands of another entity. It's in your own hands, as much as is humanly possible in this society, right? As much as humanly possible in the United States of America, right? Your risk is your own. So you eat what you kill. And so it has risk associated to it, but it's interesting. When the crash happened in 2008, it's interesting because all of my peers are entrepreneurs, pretty much, right? All of the people, because I've been running with entrepreneurs for 15 years. So everybody with entrepreneurs got hit the hardest out of the gate, right? People that had jobs got hit hard, but there was lag. So what happened is you saw the entrepreneurs go through this massive depression and scramble. And they were about a year and a half to 2 years in front of the employees, and then employees started to go through massive depression, and because there was this lag, right? Because the economy tumbled the entrepreneurs first, and the employees kind of caught up with it and paced a couple of years behind, right? So, but entrepreneurs then were rebounding faster and recovering faster because the skill set that is required for entrepreneurship. So you have to become not just a specialist or a technician. You have to become a leader, and you have to become not a juggler, but a ringmaster, right? You have to begin to manage multiple moving parts. It's more complex than employeeship, but it's ultimately more satisfying if you have an entrepreneurial mindset. So I would ask you to even look at how you operate in your job today. You know, do you find that you're like thwarted because you have creative ideas, that spread across maybe a whole enterprise, because you can actually see the whole picture as opposed to just seeing your little niche? That's entrepreneurial thinking. And the problem with entrepreneurs is that they're often stuck in these very niche, specialized situations when really their perspective and their perception is, by definition, broader than their counterparts. Right? And so if you're experiencing that part, and that is soul-crushing to a person that actually has that level of insight, because you can't see why these other fools that ain't as smart as you keep getting ahead, and why your boss is really trying to thwart you, because really they don't want to be outshone by you, because that's not the way that the tournament of corporate America is designed. That's not the way that the tournament in corporate America is designed. It doesn't actually reward entrepreneurialism. It does in the startup world, and it does at the top. But generally, at lower to mid-level management, it doesn't necessarily reward. They want you to stay in your lane. And so if you feel like your soul is dying because you're staying in your lane, then you may just be an entrepreneur.
So not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is cut out to really walk this fearless path of really self-sovereignty, especially when it comes to finance, right? Not everybody is cut out for this, is what you're telling me.
Correct. Not everybody is, because not everybody can stomach the risk. And that's not. And I'm not just saying the risk. So let me clarify that.
Qualify that.
Yeah. So there's fear of risk that came out of some wound that you're reacting to, and that we can eliminate. I can eliminate that. Give me an hour on the phone with you, that can go bye-bye. Okay? If that's out of some previous...
how? You have to tell us how can you eliminate that.
How do I eliminate that?
Yes. How do you get in behind the curtain and expose the Wizard of Oz to ourselves, break that down, and then get us comfortable with being who we really are? How do you do that?
The way that I do that is I go in and how would I explain that? But by now it just seems like I just go bloop, 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 and then it's shifted, but there is stuff that I do. What I do is, so here's how you can think about it. So for every desire that someone has, and everything that stands in the way of that desire, there's a gap. So I want $100,000 a month, but I could never open my mouth and ask for that, right? So there's the desire, then there is the blockage, and the thing in the middle is the gap, right? There's where you are, and there's where you want to be, and there's this thing called the gap. And that gap always has a story to it, right? You either have result or you have reasons. You either have the result that you intend, or you have a story called, my mama told me I wasn't smart, my daddy didn't believe in me, I was told, my teacher told me I wasn't smart, my wife doesn't support me. You have this story, right, about why you can't be who you are. And inside of that story is baked in a limiting belief that's backed with a limiting emotion, or it could be an inner conflict. Right? In the Black Mastery program, we have the inner revolutionary. Like, one part of me knows I can be an entrepreneur, and the other part of me knows that I'm dumb. One part of me trusts myself to really go step out and risk. One part of me knows that I don't manage money well. I know that about myself.
Wow.
So I know that I would bleed that all over my management of my business. Right? There's a part of me that wants to be out there and have the discipline that is required, because entrepreneurship is a certain discipline. The rhythm is discipline, right? You have to set up systems that duplicate transactions over and over and over again. There is a rhythm to entrepreneurship. It is a discipline. And so part of me knows I can be really disciplined about certain things, but part of me is afraid that I will peter out and I won't really complete the race because I have failed before and I may fail again. So you either have these inner beliefs or you have these inner conflicts. And all I do, the first thing I do is I hear it. Like, most people walk around and that's all their conversation in their head really is all the damn time. And I just have supersonic X-ray hearing that hears it. I don't know why. I can hear limiting beliefs a mile away.
So are you telling me that a limiting belief, in effect, limits your ability to succeed?
Oh, for sure. Completely. 100%. Totally.
Speak to that.
Yes.
Speak to that.
Well, so, it is, and I've done limiting belief work with businesses everywhere, and it's funny because I've stepped into some very, 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 very corporate settings, right? Again, always with black folks. Black folks are my people, right? I always find black folks somehow want what I got, right? Because I am here. I'm down for them, right? So when I stepped into some very stuffy environments where you would never think that you could hypnotize a team of like a C-suite, like CEO, CFO, CIO, CMO. But in working with a single team, even going in and clearing their limiting beliefs as a team, which is what I call a headline. In other words, when a team of people in a company have colluded and they are agreeing about a certain limitation about the company, then it creates this meta belief called a headline, and the team is operating from that. And it's my job to go in and dismantle it down to the ground.
So
right?
this is really interesting, because I'm thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking in metaphors. So every business has corporate bylaws. But the corporate bylaws are born out of your personal bylaws. And if you haven't checked in with self, part of your personal bylaws, or the fear that help you write those internal bylaws, go into the business's bylaws, is what you're telling me.
Correct. And it goes into the operations. In other words,
the execution.
Yes. Because when I've done this work with teams, and we found the underlying limiting beliefs, the headlines that the team had. This is a mom and top operation. We're always going to be seen as raggedy. We're never really going to get anywhere. And by the way, the owner of this particular business was the one that carried it the most. And because he carried the limiting beliefs the most powerfully, his team couldn't really support his success because they were always coming into conflict with that fundamental belief. Once we cleared him and cleared the entire team of the belief, they now they're award-winning. They move into new offices. They're hiring like crazy. They make multiple seven figures a year, more than they were making before. They get multi-seven-figure contracts, all because we did a retreat where we went in and we cleared the beliefs for the team and the owner, because the owner's psychology was bleeding so badly all over his organization. Once we got him cleared so that he could begin to perform and really go out and sell, then we had to get the team caught up and pacing with him, but we had to deal with this underlying set of beliefs, headlines, like you call it, bylaws that were in the organization, but the whole organization could flourish. And they are flourishing. I mean, it is ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, they're a multi-million-dollar black-owned company in D.C. that went from, like, shabby offices and 2 or 3 people to, like, a full staff and attorneys and it's multi-million-dollar contracts, awards. They're doing big. I mean, it's a whole different thing because we dealt with this fundamental mindset thing. That's what I'm saying. If you don't get that fundamental, whether you're in a company or not, if you don't get that mindset stuff resolved, then nothing changes.
So tell me this. How much, because I know big corporations hire people like you to come in and really get the minds right. If I can use the nomenclature of the street, I got to get my mind right.
Right.
I know they hire people like you. How much on average, like if you're doing this for a shell corporation, or you've worked with the NBA and you've worked with Oprah Winfrey and you've worked with Ian Levans, like how much does a major corporation hire someone like you? You know, how much do you charge? How much do they pay you for that?
Well, Chevron,
to come in and get their whole corporation right.
Yeah, when I was doing Chevron, I did Chevron years and years ago. When I was first coming out of the gate, like I was a baby coach, and my mentor had big fat contract at Chevron, and she brought me in, and she was paying me 15 years ago. I'm gonna say $5,000-$10,000 a day to come in and work with people. This was like 10 or 15 years ago, though. So today, for me to even do a small intervention with an organization, it starts at $25,000 for a small team, like a few people. It starts at $25,000. But understand the return on investment. In other words, the reason that people bring me in, and also, I mean, like this one guy whose team that I just explained, you know, we did the whole thing. He just keeps me on retainer because he's like, it doesn't matter because we just make money because you're here. And the thing is because I go in and deal with things on the emotional level. You know, when I go in and I reprogram the employees on an emotional, mental, psychological level, then the change actually sticks. Change actually integrates. The change actually, in other words, it's not like I'm going in with some surface HR bullshit, right, saying, why don't you guys act nice to each other, or why don't you guys make more money? No, I'm going in, looking at the desire of the organization, looking at where the person is, looking at the gap, and then I am yanking out everything that is incongruent with the desire out of just unplugging it from people's psychology. So when change happens, it's permanent, right? So it's not just some surface HR-y kind of weird thing that people do. I go in and we get down, like change sustains.
Wow. So I know there are people on the line right now, people who maybe you guys were on last week, or maybe this is your first week being on. But if you're a business, or if you're starting a small business and you're a little overwhelmed, or you want to see if you're on the right path, now's your time to connect with Veronica for coaching, for question her. Ask her, like, hey, am I going in the right direction? Or or maybe she could talk to you a little bit about your fears or whatever has held you back in the past. Now's the time to open up to it. If there's anybody who wants to do that, don't hesitate.
So so I've had everybody muted because of the background noise that I heard when I first came in. So if you want to raise your hand, you can press *2 to raise your hand. Press *2 to raise your hand, and then I'll see you, and then I'll unmute you. Okay, here we go. Hold on one sec. Fancy technology. Hi, welcome to the call.
Fancy schmancy.
Hello?
Hi, welcome to the call.
Hi, my name is, yes.
Hi, is it Derek?
Yes, Derek, yes.
Hi, Derek, welcome. What's your question?
Hey, Derek.
Hi. I have a really tough question to ask right now. I'm currently working a really, really crappy job right now, and I'm to the point right now. I've been here a year, and I'm about to quit in like 2 weeks, and I'm trying to get a booth set up at my local mall so I can start, selling my artwork and, putting my name out there and all that stuff. And I need some pointers, get me started, get me pushing forward and stuff like that, because right now I'm just kind of tired of doing this right now. And if I stay here any longer, though, I'm afraid I'm just going to rip my hair out, pretty much.
Okay. I completely understand that. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions for you, Derek. Then let me ask you this. How many months can you survive without your current income when you quit your job?
Well, this current income I got right now is like I'm barely making it as it is on this income right now, because I want to say like it's kind of below or at minimum wage, so I'm barely making it as it is right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
So when I left my job 15 years ago, and I say don't try this at home, boys and girls. I left with 3 months. I had 2 young kids. I had a nanny, my ex-husband's cousin, and her daughter. I was supporting everybody on my own, solely my income, and I transitioned to full-time entrepreneurship. And I jumped with 3 months of business lined up. In other words, I had 90 days worth of revenue lined up in my business. It was booked, right? So I knew I had 90 days to make it work, right? Before I jumped, right. So I thought I launched the plane and built wings on the way down, right? I had 90 days, and I would say this when I advise clients today. I say that understand that the economy has slowed down. So I typically would prefer people have 6 months unless they have a really solid revenue plan. And because when we talk about an economy slowing down, I say money follows speed, right? So when an economy is moving fast, what that really means is there's velocity in the economy, meaning money's changing hands fast. People are like, boom, boom, yeah, I can buy that. So money bounces, right? In our community, through our community, in the country, it bounces more often. So when you're in an economy that's moving fast, and money's in circulation and people are spending, then you don't have to worry about, you have more buyers just in general in the marketplace, right? When money slows down, as it did in the economy, when the economy hit in 2008, then it all slows down. So the relevance for you is understanding how much reserve you have and how long you can last in the event that nobody buys your stuff. So what is the reality of that?
So Veronica, are you telling him that he shouldn't leave his current job until he's built up a 3-month reserve of potential business to do when he's ready to go?
Or if he's got either 3 months reserve in savings, or I'd say at least 90 days of invoices. So in other words, or receipts. So in other words, if you can line up 90 days worth, in other words, whatever your baseline expenses are for your household, what it takes for you to live, right? If you can line up, let's say, I was going to give a round number. Let's say it's $5,000 a month, right? If you can line up $15,000 worth of business in the next 2 weeks, or you're on the path for that, then I say make that jump. Otherwise, you're putting everything in jeopardy. Because let me tell you something. There's nothing as compelling. Listen, as much as your job sucks, right? And I get that it does. When you're in entrepreneurship and you are in scarcity, I mean real survival scarcity, right? When you can't pay, you don't know your next mortgage payment or next rent's going to come from. When you are in real scarcity, it does not lend, that energy does not lend itself well to selling. Because selling out of utter desperation is never a good look. Because neediness is a repellent. See, money follows speed, But scarcity follows need in business.
Really quickly, let me interrupt just 1 second. There are a couple of people that are hitting me on Facebook asking how do they raise their hand so that they may say something.
They hit star 2. They hit star 2.
Star 2.
Star
okay,
2.
now you can finish that point. Thank you.
So, I see the hand raising. So, Derek, so my question back to you then is, do you have a concrete plan to have 3 months worth of business receipts lined up and either on target for being sold or reserved? Do you have something lined up to support that? I'd say in this economy, I lean more towards 6 months, but I get the urgency of the now.
Right. Yes, I do. Actually, right now, I'm currently working on my first 2 comic books, and they're going to be released early next year. And then after that, I'm working on an art book too. So I'm trying to get that together as well, though. And
but that has nothing to. Okay, wait. But that has nothing to do with current receipts for the next 90 days.
Right.
Books are a brochure.
Right.
You get that, right?
Yeah, I get
Books
that.
aren't the way that you make money. Books is how you get. It's a brochure. It's a way to introduce your concept to people.
Right.
So I'm talking about receipts for your artwork for the next 90 days. Is that handled or not?
I mean, I have like old artwork that I haven't sold yet, though, that I can put out there because like I haven't sold it yet, though.
So what would it take to go sell it in the next 2 weeks? What would it take to like boot camp that, to say, you know what, I'm putting my butt on the mat and we're going to sell for 2 weeks and that's it, right? To blitz it.
Right.
What would it take to do that? Because that will be the litmus test. If you can do that and actually make the money, then you've qualified yourself to potentially make the leap. If you don't, I would defer your transition. So, do you have enough artwork that's unsold that could you go cover your next 90 days worth of expenses, personal expenses?
I understand, because I have like at least a good 30 pieces, of artwork that I haven't sold yet, or if unsold.
Right, but what stopped you from selling them so far?
Well, so far it's like just the job keeps changing hours, and then and I'm getting sick of the job changing hours, and the management's really crappy here. And then like I know it's not it's an excuse, but it's just like I'm at a point now where just like I'm so done with this, and I want to get this done now.
I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
So here's my question. So what would it take for you to sell 30 pieces in 2 weeks? If you if somebody put a gun to your head, or was going to take away your birthday or whatever, what would it take to do 30 pieces in 2 weeks?
Right. I'll just go out there and I'll do it, because I mean this is my dream that I want, and
Great. So that's your litmus test.
Yeah.
Because if you can do that, then guess what? If you go out and you bomb it that way, and you just like you get non-negotiable, and you say this will be, and you sell that artwork, and you pay your bill for the next 90 days, then you will have proven, you will have qualified yourself to entrepreneurship. But not until then. You understand?
So I think what Veronica is saying is, either you've hit rock bottom to go out and do whatever it takes to get it done, or you're going to stay frustrated and you're going to stay at a job. Because she's saying you can't leave that job until you become hardcore, no matter what. Nothing's going to stop me. Nothing's going to impede my progress. Entrepreneur. And I'm going to eat, sleep, drink, crap, whatever my dream is, every day, 24 hours a day, 365 a year. If you're not with that mentality, rise and shine, grind and shine, if you're not there, then you're going to stay frustrated in a mediocre, marginalized kind of life. That's what she's really saying in a nice way. I just had to come in and put the hot sauce on it so you can understand exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I need right now, because I just if I don't get that kind of talk, I mean, I'm gonna stay here forever, and I don't want to be some 50-year-old old guy still at a job working full crap hours.
So
I don't want
great.
to do that.
So my email is veronicaconway.com. I want a progress. I want every 48 hours. I want an email. I don't want a story. I don't want a bunch of excuses why it isn't done. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I don't want none of that. I want the numbers. I want the metrics. I talked at the top of the call. It's your mindset, your money, your model, and your metrics. So metrics is what we measure. So I want the metrics. I don't want the story. I want the metrics. How many did I sell at what dollar amount? I want that every 48 hours on the dot. Got it?
Got it.
All right. Cool.
Thank
cool?
you. I'm cool. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to take the next person. So you see, this is how we get accountability, right? And one of the things that we're going to be doing in the Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur Bootcamp is we do what's called a sales blitz, right? You've been a part of a toleration blitz, right, Zoe? Where you take a day and you dedicate it to like clearing, cleaning, moving, like clearing stuff out. We do that around sales too, where it's a blitz. You have this massive, rigorous accountability for selling and getting stuff done. And so one of the things that happens when you blitz, it's just like what's going to happen for Derek. When you stop all the considerations about why you can't sell and da-da-da, if you've got accountability and you've got a number to hit, then it begins to dissolve all of those back of mind fears and doubts and stories about how I can't do it, right, all the stories, because your subconscious takes over and it just moves into action. And you'd be surprised at what you can create when you blitz. So we just kind of put Derek on a little bit of a blitz. But we're going to be doing that virtually in the Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur Bootcamp with all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and take the second person. Go ahead.
Let me, wait. Before you do that, I was on the toleration blitz, right? I experienced the toleration blitz, and let me tell you, the accountability component is crazy. It's all day long. It's from 8 till about 3. It's all day. You got to check in. What every did you go reconcile? You got to check in every hour. What did you reconcile this hour? Check in with us and tell us what you did to move this out of your life. You have a problem confronting this person. You got to go have that conversation right now. And you got to check in 59 minutes. Boom. So it's all day long you removing obstacles and things in your life and things that are holding you back and things that you've tolerated. Man, when I tell you, when you're being held accountable by an entire group of people because they're doing this blitz with you, it's really profound and powerful. Trust me, I did it myself. This is not something I haven't experienced myself, so it's a cold piece of work.
Blitzes are fun, but in the Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur Bootcamp, we do 2 blitzes. We do a toleration blitz, which is where you take an inventory of everything that you've been putting off, everything that you've been avoiding, procrastinating around, the things that you've turned into furniture in your life, the unhad conversations, the unsent proposals, the letter of resignation that needs to be sent, the breakup letter that needs to be sent, right? All that shit, right, that is undone, that's keeping your life hostage. Because when you go in and you start to move all of that out of the way, you get all of this energy. That starts to begin to happen just because once you stop holding on to all of the things that aren't for you, then guess what? Your spirit, your soul, your arms are in availability to that which is for you. But you can't actually catch that which is for you when you're holding on to a bunch of shit that's not for you. That's the problem. And so it's spiritual. So when we go in and we take a day and we get rid of all of that in community, now you're freed up to actually have things manifest. And so people begin to manifest things out of toleration blitzes just because they've cleared the decks psychically, physically. Their environment is ready for this next mountain called entrepreneurship. Then once we've done that, then I teach you how to sell whatever it is. I teach you how to sell it for more money than you ever thought you could sell it for. And then we do a sales blitz where we go out and we sell, and you just go and you make money, and that's your job. You go and you sell. Just like I've kind of put Derek in a little bit of a sales blitz, but we do this in a day. And people go out and make $10,000 in a day. And so your identity about who you are, I promise you, you go sell $10,000 in a day, you will move from a Wannapreneur to entrepreneur in your psychology and identity just from spending that day on the phone. It'll change how you view yourself.
So, Veronica, there are a lot of people. Yeah. They're waving their hands. Let's get them in here.
Okay, so jump in here. I'm not sure who, it's an anonymous caller, but who, hey.
Hello, my name is Kojo, Cole Kessie.
Hi, Kojo. Hi.
Hey, I'm trying to invest in myself, and actually an accountant right now, and I'm trying to move into to become a CPA. And actually just want to know, how can your system help me out in doing something like that?
You want to move into your own business as a CPA?
Yes, I want to become a CPA and open up my own business.
And you are currently in a firm?
I work for a private company right now, yes, as an accountant.
Okay. And where are you in the educational process in terms of getting your CPA? I mean, in other words, where are you in the cycle of attaining your CPA? Like, are you going to get it next month, next year? When will you have a designation?
I'm going to get it sometime in the summer of next year.
Okay. And do you want to have that in place before you open up a firm? Before you open up your own firm?
Yes.
Okay. So you're about a year out. Is that what I'm hearing? You're about a year out from okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is that, you know, as a CPA, I mean, you have to know, well, to have your own business, to be an entrepreneur, regardless of what type of business it is, you are going to need to understand your mindset. You have to have a handle on that. You're going to have to understand the money and the model, meaning what is going to be the most lucrative way to start up your business. So there's a sweet spot that we all have that gets us the most profitability for the least amount of effort, and that is our model, right? So I don't believe that we have to have that long, circuitous, windy path of trial and error when we start a business. I believe that we can leapfrog to our results if we have a clear model and a clear path. So I would say that the way that this could support you is to get your model designed and clarified in the beginning, right? Before you even go to launch the business. And then developing a plan around that. And when I say model, I don't necessarily mean business plan. I mean your revenue model. Where are you going to get customers? How are you going to convert them? And how are you going to deliver the service to them? Where are you going to get them? How are you going to convert them? How are you going to deliver the service? And operationalizing that so that there's momentum, so that that's something that happens over and over and over again, right? So that has to get clarified. So mindset, then money and model, and then how do you measure it? So I think that what most people do is they launch a business without having those certain things in place, like a clear path for how they're going to make money and how they're going to be profitable. So I think that for you, getting model, and, you know, there might be mindset stuff in there too. We address that in the Wannapreneur Entrepreneur Bootcamp because I think that's the first order of business is to get clear about the back of mind fears, problems, conflicts, beliefs that are stopping you. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes, it did.
Any other questions?
No, that was it, really.
If you want to come hang with us for this boot camp, if you go to W2E bootcamp.com, there's both the application there to have a strategy session with me, and you can also register for the boot camp at the bottom. There's two orange buttons. One is to apply to talk to me. The other is for to register for the boot camp itself. So that's what you can do.
Okay.
And see,
awesome.
and this is what and this is Veronica and all of the callers that are on right now. This is the reason why I'm doing this, because I want to be able to bring resources to the people who listen to the show. So you have one of the world's foremost business coaches transformational coach. Now, you know, she works with everybody, NBA, Yana Van Zandt, Oprah Winfrey, all types of people, Chevron, the whole get down. Now, I'm bringing her to the table, to the audience who comes and listens to my show, because I believe, and you said something very key. I was going to say it on the show today, but I didn't say it. And that is, when you are disorganized, you are automatically a dependent. So what she's doing is not only flushing out your fears, but organizing your model so that it is now an effective, executable game plan that will transition you from where you are at now to where you'd like to be. And it's really simple. Rich people all over the world have been utilizing this stuff, and now I'm trying to bring somebody to the table that can get us organized so we can no longer be dependent, so we can now be independent as a community. It's time now for us to become an independent community. And there are so many models of independent communities in the world right now, in America right now. There's no reason and no excuse for the African American community to not be an independent community.
Amen. 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 Here's the thing that I really believe in my little secret mental closet and spirit and soul. And it's the reason that I created Black Mastery. I created Black Mastery to really catch it. It's an antidote to white supremacy. Right? White supremacy is about their fear of us, and they're doing everything in their power to control and dominate us, really out of their fear. Fear of genetic annihilation, fear of a lot of our powerful traits. And so, to be so afraid of us that rather than level the playing field and compete with us, it's like let me destroy the playing field and really put myself in an advantage so I don't have to really compete, right? So, but what I believe in my soul, in my core, is that our own innate nature, our own innate godliness, not about superiority or supremacy over or against another, but our own innate godliness, when allowed to unleash and emerge, is the thing that will pave the way for us. It's the thing that will pave the way for us. The thing is that we have been under the pressure, the pressure of a society that has taught to teach us that we were inferior, and so we've just become a reaction to that conversation. So now what you see out here in media is us being a living, walking reaction. Instead of making a decision and deciding to take charge and say, you know what, I don't give a shit what they do, what they say. We are going to master our own domain. We will and the decision to take that back, there's a decision to take that back and to not be a reaction or a response anymore to anyone else's insanity. But that's a decision that we have to make. And so when I began to investigate this stuff, I mean, the reason that for those of you that have Black Mastery, I mean, the reason that I formulated that is because I really wanted the deepest, most potent, most revolutionary, powerful thing that would begin to transform our minds without us spending 20 years on the couch, which is what we kind of need, right? Because we've been so wounded. But rather than do that, I'm like, how can we do it so it goes fast, right? But I believe that when we unwind enough of those limitations and enough of those blockages, that we step up. I think that God will see us stepping up and will reward us in time. But we cannot continue, even though we've been victimized, we must not continue to walk in the role of victim. We have got to decide something different. And all that I'm doing today, and all I've been doing, and all I'm doing in cahoots with Zoe, is giving you the opportunity to finally make a different choice, to make a radically different choice about your destiny. Wow. And it's a scary thing. I had to do it. my clients have to do it. We have to do that. So this is your time. This is your time.
So, Veronica, I'm
Yes.
getting some messages on Facebook and on Twitter. People are asking, what is the website and the process by which to sign up for the Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur Bootcamp?
So the website is W2E bootcamp.com. W2E bootcamp.com. It's for Wannapreneur to Entrepreneur Bootcamp. But that spelling all that out was too long. So it's W2Ebootcamp.com. If you go there, it gives the schedule. We're starting in a couple of weeks. My boot camps are typically $5,000 because that's the level of value that I get. In other words, you get at least 4, 5, 10 times that back. For those listeners, just for the next week, we're extending this actually. We're going to extend it so that it'll be $2,000. It'll be $1,997 if you haven't bought Black Mastery. It'll be $1,800 if you have bought Black Mastery. So if you bought Black Mastery, there's no loss of investment. I include the Black Mastery program in the boot camp so that you can get going right away. If you go to W2Ebootcamp.com, there is both an application. The application helps me. We can have a brief conversation over the next couple of days. It helps me get clear about whether you're a fit and whether you're entrepreneurship ready. It helps you get clear about where you are. Like sometimes just answering questions that get you clear about where you are. So if you go there, the application is there on that page. At the very bottom, if you want to just sign up and you know that this is something that you want to do now, you know that in your gut, then you can go ahead and sign up at the bottom. We'll send you the Black Mastery program and some other stuff to get you going right away. The schedule's posted there, and we're gonna rock and roll, man. Let's stop complaining and let's make some money and let's get some independence and power back.
That's what it is, man. That is what it is. Anybody else have any questions about business or something you're working on?
If somebody wants to, if you want to press *2 to raise your hand, you can press *2 and you can raise your hand. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Oops, there is he. I knew it would happen. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. Okay, you're on the line from Minnesota.
Hello?
Hello, hi.
Hi, my name is Anastasia.
Hi, Anastasia. The beautiful name.
Thank you. My question that I had is, you know how nowadays everything is online. What do you think about with a brick and mortar business, starting something up like that?
It totally depends on the model. So again, it's always about the model. So what's the model in the brick and mortar business that you're talking about?
Selling like African products, clothing, and natural products.
Okay, and you're talking about selling it in a store?
Yep.
So this is always, in fact, it's funny because I talked to a sister just the other day who had a similar idea, probably not in your area, I don't think. I think it completely depends. So in a brick and mortar business, I mean, it gets real fundamental, right? So what are the expenses going to be every month to maintain a brick and mortar business? You know, let's just say, I'm just going to give round numbers. Let's say it's $5,000 all in for rent and insurance and light, electricity, and legal and accounting and, right, all those expenses. Right, let's just say it's that. Then what you have to begin to say is, okay, at what's the average price point for my stuff that I'm selling, and how many units do I have to sell every month to make my overhead expenses for the business and pay myself a salary? Right? That's just the most basic. I mean, there's far more complex ways to look at a business model, but it's the most basic way to look at a business model is what is the baseline of what the expenses are going to be and what my personal is going to be, my personal baseline of expenses. So, and then how much do I have to sell to meet that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So do you have a sense of that?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a sense of that? In other words, have you priced
No,
have you priced buildings? Have you priced the expenses? Have you priced insurance? Have you priced all that?
No, and I'm just in the beginning process. I haven't even started yet. It's just an idea.
Anastasia. Hey, Anastasia, this is Zoe. You better be taking some notes.
Yes, I'm taking notes, ma'am.
There we go. Oh, there we go. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Right. So it's like people say to me sometimes, give me general advice about how to start a business. Well, it depends on the business, right? The reason, Anastasia, that people go online is because you don't have that overhead, right? Because if I don't have, right, you have some overhead, and what you really have to understand in online marketing, and I'm not an expert in online marketing by any stretch of the imagination. I know some gangsters in online marketing that can put, you got to pay $25,000, but you'll get $50,000, $100,000 a month in return because they are gangsters in online marketing. But the reason that people go to online marketing is because the overhead is less, right? You don't have that monthly nut of like, I got to pay this rent, I got to pay this electricity, I got to pay this, right? I have to have somebody present there at all time, otherwise I'm out of business. Right? The reason that people have moved to online is because you have a lot more leverage and you have a lot less personal monthly expense. You have a lot less personal overhead. The challenge with online marketing is that everybody thinks they can do it because they put up a website, and that nothing could be further from the truth. You really have to know what you're doing in online marketing to make it profitable. And because of the way the game is rigged in the online space, everything changes. So Google AdWords might work one day, but then Google changes their algorithms, and the people that were using Google AdWords go out of business overnight, right? Because Google changes their algorithms. Or Facebook changes its terms of service, right? You're doing Facebook marketing, and a certain strategy works, and people go in and they rush in and they build businesses around that, and then Facebook changes their terms of service. It's kind of like what Zoe was talking about on his show today, right? You don't know what you're agreeing to when you sign up to do stuff in these platforms, right? And they'll change your TOS, and then you're out of business. So the flip side is that you don't have the same amount of overhead in an online business as you do in a bricks and mortar business, but you really have to know what you're doing.
Okay.
And with a bricks and mortar business, there are certain things that are baked in that are never going to change from an expense standpoint. That rent, that electricity, having a warm body there that doesn't steal. If you're bringing somebody in, right, that's honest, and all of that stuff, like you have to. That's a constant, ongoing level of management that you have to be prepared to deal with. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. I took a lot of notes, a lot of things that I didn't think about. But, I'm just in the beginning process, and I'm just trying to learn, and so it was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
And let me say this to everybody that's still on the line. Veronica and I are trying to make this call available. I mean, this isn't even the boot camp, but she has a lot of insight to just general business questions in terms of startup, in terms of planning. And this isn't even the boot camp. So it's just about trying to provide a service, man, to our people and keep us talking and keep us in communion with each other and sharing ideas and information. So with that said, anybody else has anything to say or ask, now's the time to do it.
We've got more. Hold on, we've got more hands raising. Okay, hold on, okay. In New Jersey, welcome to the call. Hello, welcome to the call. Is it Ty? Hello? In Mullica Hill, New Jersey? Going once? Going twice? You may have wonder if he muted
Yeah,
himself.
put him back on mute. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh,
can you hear me now?
There you go. We got you. We got you.
Excellent. I'm driving, so I stopped and parked on the side of the road.
Yay.
I have a question in terms of I'm not really interested in the entrepreneurship aspect.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the community. I have a couple of businesses that I run, but what I've found is the people that I've been networking with are either, I'll just put it out there, like a Christian Chamber of Commerce where people are so spiritual that they don't understand business, or people that are conscious, but they think that socialism is a viable economic system when we know it doesn't work. So it's sort of like, so they always talk about capitalism is bad, and not that capitalism is good, but free enterprise is what we want, like to display your value and market it. So I'm interested in connecting with conscious people that have value that they're willing to exchange.
Well, you called the right person. You called the right person because Veronica is a capitalist. She is a conscious capitalist. That's what she is, and she can show people how to build those kind of businesses.
Well, but so when you are you saying is your business a local business? In other words, your marketplace is local to your community, correct?
No. I have a consulting business that I provide consulting online, and it's about I do stock option trading, direct real estate investing, and online businesses like Amazon, selling things to Amazon and stuff like import export and stuff. So I'm committed to entrepreneurship. It's just that I feel like I'm sort of like in an island where there's either and also because of the background, like I'm Ivy League educated or whatever, and I appreciate those calls because it really kind of unlocks like, hey, you just got a good European education kind of thing.
I love it.
So I run into a lot of people that look down on everybody else, but it's all about like, well, are you in Jack and Jill and doing blah, 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 but it's like you're not really helping the community. You just want to look down on other people.
Right.
And it's about uplifting everyone. At the same time, some of the people that are really into uplifting, they don't know anything about business.
Correct.
And it's sort of like you can't run a business if you're against what makes a business successful.
Correct. Yeah. No, I love it. It's a great
point.
dilemma. It's a great dilemma. In other words, one option, I would always say one option is no choice, two options is a dilemma. So when you're caught in between the quote unquote Afrostocracy, right, which may be moneyed and may value business, because I've done a lot of Afrostocracy stuff in my life, right, spoken at conferences and all that kind of stuff. And there is definitely a certain mindset there, but you're right, when you get into the conscious community, quite often there is such an aversion to all things money, all things, right, that you can't do business with them because they have a deep commitment to poverty. Right. A deep commitment to poverty.
Right.
And,
or to poverty conscious. Let's keep that clear.
Yeah.
Poverty
conscious. My daddy was a Black Panther, right? So and I saw what happened to a revolution that wasn't funded. You can't have a revolution if it's not going to be funded, right? And so that's where the conscious folks are still back. Like you got to fund if and I don't mean a violent revolution. I just mean if you're going to have any kind of revolution, there has got to be an economic basis for that. So I empathize with where you are, and so when you say, let me ask you this: where do you go to find people that are sort of more in the mix? Because there's a middle ground here of a person that's both conscious and entrepreneurial. Where do you go to find them?
Great question. Overseas, I try to connect. Maybe it's something of where people in the U.S. are educated. That you asked me. I look like for right now. I can't even get news in the United States
from the United States because I see the clear bias there. So I have to go and also because of learning that in schools there were things that were specifically taken out to prevent people from thinking.
Yes.
It kind of bothered me where I would see like, oh man, they're NBC, Fox, all these people are giving us propaganda, and people are just following it, and we're going to end up in war with going after ISIS or ISIL instead of what's really going on behind the scenes. So I actually have a lot in common with people that are either from Africa somewhere, from the Caribbean somewhere, in Europe somewhere, than with people in the continental United States.
Right, because the programming and the psychological warfare for the people in the U.S. probably trumps any psychological programming that's happened anywhere else. Right? It's just because
I don't know
psychological.
what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do this. I don't have an answer at the top of my head. I'm going to have you go to w2ebootcamp.com though, and just go ahead and fill out the application. There's some resources that are here in the States that I think I could connect you to that you'd be interested in. But go to that website, and that'll let you give me your information, and I'll reach back out to you, and I'll connect you with some resources that are in America that I think you would find interesting. I'm a part of some pretty major conferences that are Black-focused, that are entrepreneurial, that are conscious. And it's rare. It's like a unicorn here in the United States, but they exist. They're very few things, but they exist.
Excellent.
Hey, thanks for the call, brother. We appreciate you pulling over and reaching out.
Thank you for the perspective. I empathize deeply with that perspective.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? If you have any questions, you can go ahead and hit star 2. We've kept you a while. It's been an hour and a half, so I want to honor your time. Yeah.
But wait, please, before you honor their time, they have to know the website and how to link up. What's the website again? W2E
Bootcamp.com.
W2E Bootcamp.com. Beautiful.
Yep. And you can apply they can apply for a strategy session with me if you want to talk about your business and you want to kind of get a sense of it. You can apply for a strategy session with me. I'll reach out and follow up. Or you can go ahead and sign up for the program. I'm going to invite you to sign up sooner rather than later. Again, we are going to be changing the price of this boot camp back to my normal pricing within 7 days. So if you got to figure it out and, just figure out how to participate, we're going to give you a little bit of time to do that by request. We want you to have this opportunity. It's not that, it's amazing. One of the things that I've learned in my life, and I learned this really early in business, because I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs, but I am wired that way. But when I first embarked upon my own business, I got mentors. And it shaved decades off of my learning curve. My first mentor is the person that brought me into Chevron, for example, right? So I go in and I start making, $10,000 a day, right? Learning on somebody else's dime with a contract that she'd established, right? So I learned how to play that game early in the game from my mentor, but I hired her first, right, so that she could actually understand my capabilities and understand who I was. So I've always hired mentors way before I thought I could afford them. It's that commitment in oneself that actually leapfrogs you forward, because when you invest in yourself and you believe in yourself, you'll do whatever it takes to make the investment work. And I've done that before.
Veronica, I want to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the most you've ever paid a coach for?
My current coach is $50,000 a year.
Wow. And let me ask you a question. Did you have the $50,000 to pay?
No, I did not.
I know stuff about you. So I'm going to throw you under the bus a little bit. Because people want to know, like, okay, she's more like me than, I thought in the beginning, because I might be sitting here fretting over the amount of what this situation is, but she's been in a situation that makes this situation seem at least a little bit more manageable. You didn't have the 50K.
I didn't have the 50K at all. I found 50K.
But you found it.
I did.
And since you paid that money to this high-end transformational business coach, have you made that 50K back?
I made the money back. I made the money back in 60 days.
Because I remember, this is this year, by the way.
Yeah.
I remember when you said, hey, man, I don't know how I'm going to call into the show. I don't know how I'm going to do all of this at the same time, because I'm running in and out of these conferences with these sky ballers in Vegas right now.
Right.
I remember the whole story. And then you call me and say, man, my brain is fried. They've taught me so much stuff over the last 12 hours. I got to go, so, but I'm going to call you back at midnight. She was just running nonstop.
Right.
But, again, she gets the tools from these people and brings them back to us. That's the purpose of me doing these conference calls like this. And we're going to keep doing them. We're going to keep doing them.
Yep. Yes. So, thank you.
So,
yes. So what I've always found, and I've always invested in high-level mentors, 10,000, 20,000. I've always done it with, like, knees knocking and teeth chattering. I'm not sure I can do it. I've just done it that way. But what I found is that just doing that it catapults you into, because when you believe in yourself, when you get the identity of a person that makes money, then you'll make money. It's just right. And sometimes taking that leap is the thing that does that. I've always done that. I've never sat around and had extra money to invest in my mentors, but I promise you, in probably the over $500,000 worth of advanced education, and a lot of it business education that I've had, either like in NLP, hypnosis, all that stuff, coaching, training, all that stuff, or marketing education or business education. I'm probably $500,000, right, easily. It's never, I've always used it, I've always put it to work, it's always been profitable, right? So
wow.
I just think at a certain point you got to take that stand. And so, we don't realize that the reason that folks are getting ahead, especially because, again, I hang around our less melanated counterparts that are making real money, they share information and they share knowledge with each other, and they keep it in this group amongst themselves, and you have to pay for access to that. And I'm talking multiple 5-figure access to that. And so I don't, it's not that you don't hate, emulate, right? Like find ways to be in community with like-minded folks that want the same things that you want, right? That want what you want for your community. I think that some of those listeners, because of who Zoe is, I think you're some of the most enlightened creatures on the planet, really, because Zoe talks about real heavy-hitting stuff. And to be a fan and to be an audience member and to stay tracking and watching, I think says a lot about who you are. I would say it's time to catapult that to the next level and really do some things in community that are going to catapult you, your family, and your community forward. I say it's time to up-level the game. So that's why we're here. We hope that you will consider joining us. It's going to be crazy. You're going to have fun. It's going to be crazy.
One more time, where do they join us?
So, w2ebootcamp.com. You can fill out an application there. You can sign up for the program there. And I promise you will love it.
There it is. I appreciate you guys.
Yes, I appreciate you too. And thank you, Zoe, for always being such an advocate for the work. I appreciate you. And for everyone that called in, appreciate you for taking time out of your busy lives to be here. For those of you that are on the recording, I hope this was valuable and useful to you as you listen to the replay of this. And just power and mastery to all my beautiful Black people. This is Veronica Conway and Zoe Williams for the Wannapreneur to Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. Signing off, we thank you, and good night.